Welcome to Joy of the Hang. I'm your host, Sharon Stevenson, and today we have a very important conversation, one that's close to home and close to the heart. My guest, Melissa Howard, is a guardian ad litem for at-risk youth here in Sarasota. She's going to take us inside the foster care system, what it's really like, the challenges these children face, and most importantly, how you can make a difference. This is an eye-opening conversation you'll want to share with others because our kids need us now more than ever. So today, I invite you to listen with an open mind, an open heart, and maybe a pen to jot down how you can help. Let's hang for a while with Melissa Howard. Welcome, Melissa.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So let's get started. First of all, what is a guardian ad litem and what is your role?
Yeah, so a guardian ad litem is someone that is appointed to the court for children that are in foster care. So when a child is removed from the home, they get assigned a case manager and a guardian ad litem. And I am basically the eyes and ears of what the child's wishes are for the court. So we're all volunteers. If you are interested in being a guardian ad litem, you can go on Safe Children Coalition's website or the Children Guardian Ad Litem website, or just Google, how can I be a guardian ad litem in the state of Florida? You have to go through a background check, 30 hours of training, and then you have like 6 hours of training every year. But it's extremely rewarding. Basically, you're seeing the child every month, asking what their wishes are, speaking to the parents, the foster parents. For instance, my case now, I have a child that's turning 17. He's very behind in school. So I'm meeting with him on Sunday to go over how he is going to get his GED, working with his grandmother on reunification. He is in therapy at All Star, which is an amazing organization, All Star Children's Foundation here locally that provides a lot of services for foster children in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties.
And you have been doing this for, I think I read 11 years?
12 now.
12 years. So tell me how you got involved in the first place. What prompted you to want to be a guardian ad litem?
Well, I had abuse in my family, and it's very personal. The person that was abused in my family doesn't want to be discussed in public. But I know that they did not have an advocate for them when they were growing up. So I've been involved with helping children for over 20 years because I know firsthand what it's like to not have somebody advocating for a child that needs it.
It takes a strong person to do what you do.
It does, but people say, well, I really like to do it, but I don't know if I could, handle it emotionally. I'm like, you don't think you can handle emotionally? Think about you're 8 years old, the police show up and they put all your belongings in a trash bag and leave you, and you have to leave your house. That's who is going to be affected emotionally, not you. It's very rewarding, trust me, for me.
So how many hours per week did you say that you would have to expect to?
It really depends. Like, for instance, I have a case now. I mean, it's relatively pretty easy. I've had sibling groups of 8 before, and that was, it was the joy of my life taking care of the kids for almost 2 years. But, it was, I'm fortunate I don't work, and this is basically my part-time job. But for instance, this case, I would say it only, it's taking me 4 or 5 hours a month.
Okay.
So
not
it varies on the case. And how much time do you have to devote, and are you willing to devote to it?
All right. And are most people expected to stay on for 10, 12 years? I mean, you probably want to once you get involved.
Yeah, you do. But most importantly, there is so much turnover with case management. Every study shows if you just have one person that is there for you consistently through your foster care journey, your outcome is much better. And children that have a guardian ad litem, based on the data from the Casey Foundation, they do the most studies, long-term studies and outcomes, what's best for foster children. You are 50% less likely to remain in care if you have a guardian ad litem. So it's very important for the child's voice to be heard, because a lot of times, case managers have 15, 20 cases. No offense to them, but they just don't have the time to dedicate to the child, where I do.
Right. And now that, since you mentioned a statistic, I looked up a couple as well. In the Sarasota area, there are approximately 1,200 children in foster care, and that's according to Better Together. And nationally, the number of children in foster care is approximately 30, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, it's a staggering number.
It is a huge number. Several factors contribute to the need for foster care in Sarasota, including a lack of available foster homes, which can lead to children being placed in shelters or separated from siblings. The Safe Children Coalition provides training and support for foster parents in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties, and they also license foster homes. You've worked with them?
Yes, I've been a foster parent. Yes.
Yeah.
They're a very good organization. And they're also, if anybody wants to give, they are building a very needed shelter in Sarasota County. I believe they're almost fully funded, but they've already broken ground about 6 months ago. But it's very needed because I've had children that are at the current emergency shelter, and it's very old, and there's not enough room because there's a lot of limitations on who can share a room. There's a lot of children that have been sexually abused, physically abused. They have to have their own room, or you can't put a 6-year-old with a 16-year-old. So it really, you need and the problem is the existing shelter is, it's so small. They don't have individual rooms. So it's basically sometimes, you have to turn away so many children. So it's going to be, it's a good project. If you go on safechildrencoalition.com, you can learn more about that and all the services they provide. And if you want to be an angel and be a foster parent, after COVID, the amount of registered foster homes in Sarasota, Manatee went down 50%. So there is a great need for foster parents.
Yeah, I read that too. So again, let's back things up. How does a child land in the foster care system to begin with? Tell me what kind of things would be happening. Obviously, I can think of incarceration by their parents, maybe excessive drug abuse or neglect.
Yeah.
Am I on the right track?
It's mostly neglect, and that might be because mom and dad is doing drugs, leaving the children alone 2, 3, 4 days with no food. A neighbor calls, a teacher calls when there's signs of abuse or neglect. But it's generally someone calling in to the 1-800-KIDS hotline. Honestly, most of the time it's a family member that's calling that's concerned. So.
And how often do the children, once they're in foster care, end up going back with their biological family?
Most of the time, the children reunification is always the goal, but I would say, based on my experience of 12 years, I would say half the time they go back. Most of the time they're going back with extended family. And then I would say about 20% of the time, there's not an extended family member that's either willing to take the children or can pass a background check. So then they go up for adoption.
And do you know what the statistics are on the children that are placed back in their biological families? How many end up back in foster care?
I don't know what the number is, but yeah, I'm on the board of Everyday Blessings, and we had a sibling group of 9 there for almost 2 years, went back with mom, and then now, they're back into care, unfortunately. So it's unfortunate. There is clearly, most of the studies show that children are best with their family of origin, if it's at all possible. But I will say that I think Safe Children Coalition, the Guardian ad litem's you have to complete a case plan to get your children back. And it's pretty, you have to go through parenting classes, a lot of times anger management classes. If you have drug issues, you have to be drug tested multiple times before you can see your children unsupervised. You have to go through drug and alcohol, therapy. Right. Centerstone does a great job. We do have, this is a very philanthropic town. If you want help, it is here, trust me.
Right.
So, and honestly, most parents do their best, but sadly, we just have a drug epidemic. And a lot of times, when you find out you have to have 4 negative drug screens before you can see your kids unsupervised, it poses a problem. And a lot of times parents give up and don't work their case plan.
Yeah, that's sad. So tell me about this family of 9. I want to talk about that a little bit. So when they were put in the system, I'm assuming they weren't able to be kept together.
They were. That's where Everyday Blessings comes in. Yeah, their whole purpose is to keep sibling groups together in foster care. But for instance, I adopted my own children out of foster care 6 years ago, and their 2 sisters were separated, sadly, because, there were multiple fathers. So the biological father, my children did not have the same biological father as their sisters. So their family took them, and they didn't want my kids because it wasn't their blood relative. Right, so they were going up for adoption. So.
Right. And are they able to still see each other and be connected?
It's not in their best interest based on where one of the children is placed, but their little sister, yes, we do stay in contact, which is very nice.
That's good. Yeah, that's good that they have that connection. So Can you walk us through what a typical case might look like for you from the moment you're assigned to a child until the case closes?
Okay. So I just had a case close about 6 months ago. I was her guardian ad litem 2 years for 2 years. And so I go to a lot of times I like to deal with older children because a lot of times people don't want to deal with the teenagers because they can, be more difficult, but that's what I like. So I meet with the child in their group home. And I want to get them so they're comfortable with me. So I take them out to eat. Most kids want to go to McDonald's. You can give them every option where we go to McDonald's and just talk about, their life. How are they doing? Is there anything they need? I go over their medications. I want to talk to their therapist, their school, if I need to advocate for them to get tutoring. Or the Children's Guardian Fund is an amazing nonprofit that their whole mission is they want foster kids to feel like a normal child. So a lot of times foster families don't have the resources to buy them a laptop if they're in high school, or they want to play soccer to buy them cleats or sign up, pay the registration. They give all kids a clothing allowance for back to school. So I'll assess, do I need to request anything from the Children's Guardian Fund for this child? And then, and we just build a rapport. They always have my phone number if they're struggling, and I bring their wishes back to the court. So, and stay in contact with them. If they get in trouble at school, I'm at school. If they, a lot of times as they're aging out, they get a little scared and want to contact their biological parent. And so that's a lot of times sensitive and difficult to navigate, but I help them with that.
That's amazing. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about children in the foster care system?
That they are beyond repair. And I had a case where I got the case when she was 15 and a half. She had been in foster care since she's 5 years old, 23 placements, on a lot of medications, had not consistently had therapy. Both of her siblings got adopted. So she was angry that she was still in care. And by the grace of God, her last therapist she bonded with, and the therapist at 17 years old adopted her. And I just spoke to her yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. So she adopted her last year. And, I'm not saying this without hiccups. She needs to do a little better in school. And I talked to her, about what her options are. She's wanting to go to college. I'm like, well, you gotta buckle down as your senior year and tell her what the options are for technical school are. But and her disposition changed so much when she got adopted. She just needed somebody to love her and not leave her, because a lot of these kids, they screw up one time and, you got to leave. Right. So hence her 23 placements. But it's remarkable how her disposition and just her attitude has changed so much.
Wow, that's amazing, because I imagine they really struggle from abandonment issues in a big way. It's it's in your body, right? It's the trauma.
It's a trauma response. Right. It is
the freeze flight.
You're testing people because everyone's left you.
Right.
So she tried to cuss me out. I'm like, you better sit your ass down. No. But she respected me, and we had a great relationship. And I love her. I'll always stay in touch with her. I'm still in touch with kids from 25 years ago.
Wow. So. That's phenomenal. That's wonderful. In your experience, what are the biggest challenges these kids face, not just in the system, but emotionally and socially?
Emotionally, it's getting a good therapist, because, like All Star Children's Foundation has amazing therapists, but getting the child there sometimes can be a challenge, especially in a foster home if they have several other kids that have appointments and things. So a consistent therapy, because a lot of times kids have several placements. So, and we are so short on foster parents, especially if you have a child that has like special needs and they need a therapeutic foster home. I've had a child go as far as Fort Myers. That was the closest home. So now the therapists you're used to seeing, they can't travel there. So, and they, so it's keeping the therapy consistent, I see as the biggest challenge for the kids.
So where are the kids housed while they're waiting for foster care?
In group homes.
Okay. So there are group homes that.
Yeah. And a lot of the teenagers prefer to be in a group home. Like when you turn 16, they have, there's a 2-year program on preparing you to age out. And the kids get, compensated to go through, trying to get them ready to be an adult.
And people that want to be foster parents, they also get a monthly stipend, right?
They do.
Okay. From the state?
Yes.
Okay. And What's one story, you've been doing this for 12 years now, what's one story or experience that's really stayed with you that you feel captures why this work is so important?
Well, when I said the little girl that got adopted at 17, when I personally thought it was hopeless because she had such severe anger issues. And I fought for her to stay in her placement when she had, become a little violent, and myself and the therapist and my supervisor at the Guardian Litem Program, we begged them to keep her and please don't give up on her. And then sure enough, 90 days later, the therapist just connected with her, fell in love with her, and said, I'm going to adopt her. So
now in that case, another statistic, a lot of the kids they age out of foster care, right? So she was 17, she had about a year left. And you said that there is a transition program once they hit 18.
There are several. So there's a springboard program here. There are 3 or 4 nonprofits in Sarasota, Manatee County that are dedicated to children that are aging out. So they will help them transition. They will subsidize housing. They will have a case manager. They'll make sure that they meet with them on a weekly basis, make sure they get a job. Now, Everyday Blessings, a springboard program. We have 6 kids in the program. One young lady, amazing girl, has just started law school. We have a nursing student, but all of our kids are employed and or in school. Like we had a boy, we got a call from a Valvoline manager. They called Safe Children Coalition because the manager had said, I have an employee that is sleeping behind the dumpster. And is there anything you can do for him? And we learned that his mother had passed away. His father had recently gotten incarcerated and he was homeless. So he is now at the Springboard program and we're helping him. He needs some therapy and he's doing much better. It's still, he's only 19, but can you imagine?
No, I can't.
There are a lot of services available, I will say, for the kids, but a lot of times the kids just don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that there are services, and you're right. How would they know?
I mean, because he had never been in care. It was just that his father happened to go to prison and he didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah. Wow.
And is ashamed,
Well, thank God his boss
I know
made the call.
Yeah. And that's where the public, just, you never know if you see a child that you can tell hasn't bathed or you see somebody sleeping in their car,
Yeah.
I hand out blessing bags, so there are homeless in certain areas in Sarasota. And, when I go to the courthouse in Manatee County, and I just have little bags that have underwear, change for the bus, snacks, Capri-Suns, and just a little Bible verse in there to not give up. But I also have a list of all the resources that are available to them.
Of that.
I've gotten hugs. I've gotten people saying, I didn't know this was available. And
would you call that blessing bag?
Yeah.
I think that's very sweet.
It's just nice. And it's good if you have kids, I stop the car and get out and, give it to people. They hug me. They start crying. It's like, it's such an amazing thing for your kids to see too. And it's cost you $25.
Yeah, it absolutely is. No, that's phenomenal. I love that. More people should do that for sure. So I want to bring in another topic that's pretty heavy because we had another guest on that we were talking about human trafficking. And one of the statistics we shared on that episode was unfortunately a lot of children that are trafficked come from the foster care system. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about how and why that's happening.
They're an easy target because they're looking to be loved. They're looking for any type of attention. They're very vulnerable. And sadly, they're used to oftentimes being sexually and physically abused. So it's not new to them. And the trafficker is easier to manage them because they do have experience being sexually abused, sadly.
Yeah. See, I had such a hard time with that episode because I cannot wrap my head around human trafficking. I cannot wrap my head around how somebody can kidnap a person with the sole intent of selling them.
I know. Child Protective Center does a good job. They go into all the schools and they teach about, because they find these kids online. They pretend to be a 12, 13-year-old. Hey, come meet me at the mall. Then they're gone. Yeah. I mean, that happens here. I mean,
I know. Yeah. We were shocked to hear that it happens in Sarasota.
Teaching your children, I mean, just, I didn't let my kids on social media. So they were in high school and I monitor everything. But monitoring your kids is so important because they are pros at it and they know what they're doing. Yeah. So, and they target the kids that look a little, not the popular kids, the kid
vulnerable,
the vulnerable kid. They target them. So it's bad. And and I would say, don't let your children share personal information. Like, that's what we tell, all the kids that are in care, don't ever share that online. It's just because you're going to become even more of a target.
Yeah, just be more aware. I know when you're young, you're so naive,
I
right?
know.
You feel like you're invincible and nothing's ever going to happen. And
I know.
it only takes a few seconds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very scary. So what change would you love to see in the foster care system, locally or national, that would make the biggest difference for the kids?
Family therapy. I wish
Oh,
that
that's
the
a good
court
one.
would, that has to be one of the conditions for the kids to come back into care. Because a lot of times, the parents, this is generational. So the parents, especially with drug use, or if they've abused the children, they've probably been abused themselves. But getting the parents involved in mandatory therapy, I would love to see that. It's hard because of the resources. But I will say that kinship care is offered at All Star, which I love to see. Like right now, my case, the grandmother is going to therapy independent of her grandson that she's had custody of. And now they're going to go to therapy together.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
fantastic. That's
It is.
great. So All Star, tell me what All Star does exactly.
All Star does a lot of things. They have a large campus that they have foster children on, with people that, the foster parents live on campus. They have a beautiful campus in Sarasota. But what they're doing is they're conducting a lot of research. So the foster parents that are there live free of charge, but they have to document quite a bit, and their services are right there on campus. So they also do all the psych evaluations for all kids coming into care. And that is, before, it wasn't as broad as what the children's needs are. So they do like a 2-hour psych evaluation for kids coming into foster care. Then they write up a plan of what's needed for educational therapy. It was very much needed. That only started like 3 or 4 years ago. Very comprehensive psych evaluation. And then they offer a lot of therapy. They do training for Safe Children Coalition for the case managers. Statewide, they do. I've been to trainings there a few times, and they are working with universities on, how do we reduce the number of kids in foster care, and how do we produce the best outcomes for children in foster care?
Okay, that's fabulous. And if you want to get involved with All Star, we will have some information on our show notes so people can get involved and get in touch with them. So I want to know how you went from being a foster mom to adopting your children.
Well, I was a foster parent years ago. He's doing wonderful. But my kids shared a room with 2 children I was a guardian ad litem for. So when I would pick up my 2 children, they'd say, "Oh, I want to come. I want to go to the beach. I want to go out to eat." And the caregiver too. So I'd have all 5 of them with me. So over the course of a year, I got to know them pretty well. And my 2 kids that I was a guardian for were getting adopted by a relative. And my kids, I'm like, what's going on? So they were going to go up for adoption. They had a out-of-state relative that failed a home study. So I got a phone call that, she failed her home study. Would you be willing to take the kids? And so I went to get them the next day. So fostered them and then adopted.
Oh.
And it's been, it's been difficult. I'm not going to lie, but it's the greatest joy in my life seeing them. They're doing so well. My oldest is, he just got an A in Latin. He's doing his SAT. He's a senior at Cardinal Mooney. He's going to go to USF. My little one's really wants to go into the military.
It just takes one.
It does. It takes one person. So they know mom's got your back. You might not agree with everything I do for you, but I've always had your back. And they know that more than most kids, because I fought very hard to get them. It took me over a year.
You've rescued them.
Yeah.
And gave them a life, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what would have happened? If every person listening today could do just one thing to improve the lives of at-risk youth, what would you ask them to do? Donate, or more importantly, volunteer. I mean, we need guardian ad litems. I know it's a lot to be a foster parent, but, like a child protective center, they need people, they do supervised visitation for parents and children that are in care. So they need people to supervise visitations. You can, there's a lot of Center Stone, First Step. They need people to take volunteers to take people to their drug treatment. It's rewarding. I'm telling you, it's like, I feel like this town, we have so many galas and luncheons and things that it's all needed. The nonprofits depend on these functions, but volunteering, it's just, there's no better feeling. It's like, ask yourself, what's the purpose of your life? What do you want to be remembered for? Yeah.
I know if almost all nonprofits regarding children have a need for volunteers.
And according to that, I mean, we talked about the pandemic a little bit earlier, but you had written in this article, since the pandemic, the number of registered foster parents have decreased by 60% in our community. In addition, children that are not assigned a guardian ad litem linger in foster care twice as long as those that have one. There's a drastic need for people to step up and help these children. So yeah, I would encourage you to learn more about it and find out more about what's required. And if you can fill that need, I know a children's life will be saved and it will be a blessing to both you and them. So yeah.
I've had a few friends that have become guardian ad litem. There's a lady in my book club that's like, I can't thank you enough for, I kept hearing about it and it's just like so rewarding. She's a retired nurse. So just think about it or reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Melissa Howard, if you have any questions.
Well, and I am so happy that we were able to have this conversation today, and I hope our listeners are too, because I really didn't know what a guardian ad litem was, a guardian ad litem did, how impactful it could be to a child. So I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing what you do and what you've done and to save the lives of others. And I want to learn more about it too after our conversation. Good. So I'm really grateful to you for telling us your story. Thank you for giving me the
opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I have one more question before we wrap up. I ask everyone the same question. What's one way you intentionally create connection in your life?
I'm a connector to the nth degree. I always am thinking about how I can help others. If I'm an ambassador for All Star, I'm an ambassador for Make-A-Wish. My life's purpose is to help at-risk children. So anything I can do to educate other people or connect people that are interested in volunteering or donating, that's what I do.
I love that. And you have an event coming up. Let's not forget, if people want to go to your event.
Yes. Well, we have Picnic. If you've lived in Sarasota a long time, you know Picnic. So get out your hat and get your, it's a fabulous event and it's for a great cause. We help children that are in Title I high schools to go to Suncoast Technical College. We identify juniors and seniors. So they spend part of their junior and senior year at Suncoast Technical College. We've put over 70 children on scholarship through that program. So you're helping at-risk children in our community with higher education, and it's going to be a fabulous event for a great cause. The Met Fashion House is doing our fashion show. So it's October 23rd. You can...
and if people want to register for the event, how do they do that?
Yes, you can go to suncoastchildrenscharities.com, or there is an event that is created on Facebook.
Yes.
That's Picnic sur la Bay.
And Picnic is spelled, I'm going to tell you because it's very strange. So if you're in the area, you want to go, I believe it's Pique.
Yes.
And then it's Nique.
Yes.
So Picnic is the event.
Yes. October 23rd.
And
it's a luncheon, men and women.
It's the first time it's coming back.
It's 6 years. Yeah. They put it on pause because of COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, but just if you Google Picnic, you'll see the pictures. I mean, it's going to be fabulous. Trust me. So good cause of amazing day.
We're back up and running. We're kicking off the gala season here in Sarasota. So, all right. I love that. Thank you for sharing and thank you for hanging out with us today. If this conversation made you think, smile, or feel inspired, share it with a friend because joy is better when it's shared. I'm Sharon Stevenson, and this has been Joy of the Hang. Until next time, keep hanging in there and hanging out with the people who matter most. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.